Around May to March of 0079, the one-year war entered the stalemate. Although Zeon's Earth invasion force controlled the majority of the planet, they struggled to fully eliminate the Earth Federation forces entrenched in and around Jaburo, as well as in other remote and dense regions like the jungles of Southeast Asia. Attacking and holding these areas proved too difficult for Zeon forces, leading them to eventually pause and reconsider their approach. The situation in space mirrored that on Earth. Despite being severely beaten by the initial Zeon attack, the EF Space Force remained operational in hidden bases scattered throughout the solar system, such as Luna 2. Colony sighting of the EF undoubtedly contributed to the resupplying, repairing, and recruiting, and possibly even the construction of new ships. It is reasonable to assume that these forces engaged in hit-and-run attacks on Zeon supply ships, thereby diverting some resources away from the front lines on Earth. With both sides engaging only in minor skirmishes and small-scale operations, the war essentially reached a standstill. This continued until the completion of Operation V around October and November, and the initiation of Operation Odessa, which marked the beginning of the end of the war. One of the many ways Zeon tried to break the stalemate was through the creation of multiple new weapon systems. Some were large, expensive superweapons like the Act Zaku or the Apsilus program, designed for very specific purposes. Others were broader, long-term upgrades intended to enhance the overall capabilities of Zeon forces, such as the Pezun Project. Around June of 0079, Casilia Zabi devised the Pezun Project. The project aims to develop and create a new generation of mobile suits and support weapons to break the stalemate in the war. A secret research and development center was established in the Pezun asteroid, where the project commenced. At least 5 new models were created, each designed for different purposes. To avoid raising suspicion from Earth Federation intelligence, these suits were designated using the names of previously cancelled projects such as the MS-11 designation, which originally belonged to the Gelgoog. The first known project initiated by Pezun was the next generation Zoot based on Zimat's Dom, the MS-10 Pezun Dwadge. Though it shares a similar name with the MS-09G Dwadge, the Pezun model is directly based on the original MS-09 Dom. It further refines the Dom's philosophy of a high-speed and heavily armored assault suit. The Pezun Dwadge mostly looks similar to the original Dom, except for its torso and the head. The head is slightly taller and only has 3 spokes, rather than 4. The torso is more in line with Dom Troppen, appearing bulkier than the original. This added bulk likely comes from more armor and the new rear thrusters developed for the Pezun model. Instead of the original 2, the Pezun model has 5, 3 directly in the rear and 2 on the rear skirt. Additionally, a new thruster model replaced the ones in the legs and waist, giving the Pezun a higher top speed and increased agility. However, these thrusters upgrades also made the suit a bit of a handful for inexperienced pilots. To power the new, stronger thrusters, Pezun developed a new reactor capable of providing the necessary energy to achieve the suit's top speed while having enough power to spare for the chest beam scatter gun. On the original Dom, the scatter gun was more or less a very bright floodlight that could temporarily blind opponents and short out beam weapons at very close range. However, the Pezun Dwadge's scatter gun is capable of shooting actual energy beams that can inflict damage. The weapons carried by this model are also based on the Dom's weapons, some modified, some the exact same. The primary weapon expected to be carried by the Pezun model is a modified Dom Giant Bazooka. Now, I'm not entirely sure what was modified, but it looks to at least have a better scope integrated into the launcher, and some kind of new muzzle brake at the front. I don't know if a bazooka needs a muzzle brake, but it's got that weird looking design at the front there. Another option for pilots is the EXT-22 Beam Bazooka. This was a prototype developed for the Rick Dom that never saw mass production because of its tendency to explode. This bazooka does not take power away from the suit's reactor because it has its own reactor built in. An optional weapon system is the 8-tube 420mm rocket launcher, developed specifically for the suit, or at least it looks like to be that way because I don't see it anywhere else. From how it looks, I think it's a disposable weapon that you fire as you charge it, or maybe you fire it beforehand to disperse an enemy formation, and then you charge it, which basically the same. That's why I theorized, speculated just now. Or whatever. For melee, the Pezun uses the same heat saber as a Dom, but it also has these spiked arm guards, so you could try to backhand someone with it if you're able to. Of course, its weapons are only limited to these, as they can also carry other Zeon weapons, and also newly developed Pezun ones like the ballpop gun. I'm not entirely sure if this thing can use beam weaponry. Like, it says that this suit have more power, but I don't know if it's enough to handle beam weapons. The Zaku, that's a newer suit. That also doesn't have... I mean, it has more power, but it also doesn't have enough power to use beam weapons. The beam gun it uses, I think it uses a cartridge. It's like a... Yeah, it's a magazine system, I think. A number of these were built before the end of the war, with at least one being sent to Earth for gravity operation tests at California base. This specific model was later given to Major Diane Nose, a blind new type, who was an intelligence / secret police officer that directly reports to Cecilia Zabi. The Pezun Dwadge was deployed when the Anastasia, a Zanzibar cruiser, was ordered to intercept a Federation fleet that had recently launched from Jaburo. Upon reaching orbit, Diane and Zaku launched to engage the enemy. Once detected, the Federation fleet responded by launching their own mobile weapons, 3 balls, and the experimental mobile suit Red Rider. Piloted by this freaking plot protracted. Diane orders Zaku to stay back as she charges towards the Rider. Her new type abilities allows her to effortlessly dodge all of the Rider's opening shots. When they finally engage in close quarters combat, it becomes clear that the combination of Diane's new type skills and the capabilities of the Dwadge is overwhelming. Even for this fight, the Red Rider eventually managed to break away by jettisoning 2 fuel tanks and shooting them, causing a large explosion that forced Diane to retreat. She decided to wait for an incoming solar flare to use it to her advantage. While this was happening, the balls managed to snipe the Zaku. When the Federation forces realized they were trapped, they made a desperate rush towards the Zanzibar, hoping to destroy it before being hit by the impending solar flare's EMP. However, this was already planned by the Zeon forces, who had already laid mines between them and the Federation fleet. The Federation ships flew directly into the minefield, losing at least 1 ship. Seizing the opportunity, the Zanzibar launched a volley of missiles, trying to finish off the remaining vessels. The Red Rider charged towards the Zanzibar, trying to use its speed to quickly close in and destroy the ship with its wide hand, I don't know how to say this, its shield sword. Giant shield sword, there you go. Diane moved in to intercept. To dodge her, the Red Rider dove towards Earth and somehow pulled back up, even though the computer said you can't escape re-entry. He actually died. This scene here, see this scene? This is him dead. This is the afterlife. This is the 2nd time he entered this place. He should be dead. But Plot's resurrection kicks in, and he escapes gravity pull, slices off the arm of the Dwadge, and continues his charge towards the Zanzibar, which he failed to destroy anyway because the ship managed to do a sudden dodge maneuver that threw off his aim. The solar flare comes in and the Red Rider is hit, and down towards Earth he goes. He's dead. He's now dead because the Dwadge came in and saved him. 15 seconds left before absolute death. And somehow Diane managed to catch up with him, actually catching him, and then thrust away from Earth. I don't care what anybody says. All that is impossible in 15 seconds. It wasn't even the full 15 seconds because when the computer told Chase that's the time he had left, there were like 4 pages of dialogue between him and the suit. That takes up all the 15 seconds they had, right? This guy should be dead. He should be dead chapters ago. But no, he's not because plot. Anyway, I guess it showcases how strong the thrusters on the Pezun are. Later, Diane became a target for assassination due to her digging too deeply into something sensitive. Using the Pezun Dwadge, she made her escape, easily dispatching 2 Rick Doms along the way. However, she soon encountered another new type pilot, also in the Rick Dom, leading to an intense battle. As both were new types, they could anticipate each other's moves, making the fight even more challenging. During the clash, the Pezun Dwadge lost his right arm again, though the arm had never been fully repaired and it was more of a dead weight really. Taking advantage of the Dwadge's unmatched speed, Diane managed to flee towards the Earth Federation fleet she had attacked earlier, seeking asylum. Thinking they were under attack again, the Federation fleet quickly dispatched 4 gyms to intercept Diane. She effortlessly dodged their attacks, disabling each gym with precision. She sliced off the arm of one, kicked the head off another, stabbed the third in the head, and spiked the head on the last one. Upon reaching the fleet, Diane exited her mobile suit and officially surrendered, requesting asylum. However, just as she did, one of the gyms managed to destroy the now stationary Pezun Dwadge by eyeballing it. Post-war, there was one deployment of 4 Pezun Dwadges in 0084 by True Federal, a splinter Earth Federation faction. They sorted during an ambush on a Titan vessel. All were piloted by one of the first ever cyber new types to ever exist, forming a Wish.com version of the Black Tri-Star, or Quad Star in this case, since there were 4 of them. The suits were modified to carry the Demon Blade AI system that enhances new type abilities and also gives the suit the ability to create some kind of dust that disintegrate things or something? I don't know, but yeah, new types. After a certain point, it just gets a bit too wacky for me. Like I like the whole they can anticipate things, they can kind of feel each other. That's fine. The whole crystal thing with unicorn and this dust thing, huh? But anyway, while chasing the vessel, they were intercepted by a small group of BGST personnel and a military police unit. At first, they launched a Gundam Alex unit to fight against all 4. But then, the Katana Striker joined in the fight and easily dispatched them all. This is easily my favorite, like, peasant suit. I wish I was a kid for it. I would instantly buy it. The MS-11 Act Zaku is a further development of the Zaku 2, quite possibly the most advanced Zaku-based model during the One-Year War. Its model designation was originally meant for the Galgo, the MS-11 designation, but the Galgo got delayed and later got given the MS-14. The MS-11 was given to Act Zaku. The suit's heritage is unmistakable, as its overall appearance closely resembles that of a Zaku 2. The head is nearly identical, although the beak appears slightly longer and the power tubes arch up more prominently. The commander version comes with the usual antenna fin on top, providing enhanced radio and detection capabilities. The chest area is bulkier and protrudes more, likely due to additional armor or to accommodate a new power plant. The cockpit is now centrally positioned, and the power tubes now connect solely to the sides rather than snaking to the front like Zaku 2. The arms feature new pauldrons and elbow guards, but maintain a similar design to Zaku 2. The legs, notably, no longer have external power tubes running along the sides. Everything is contained inside now, which makes sense, especially during ground operations, since the chances of those tubes snagging onto something is pretty damn high, I would say. But anyway, the armor around the legs appears significantly thicker and extends down to cover the feet as well, providing more protection down there. On the rear, a new thruster pack is visible, with 2 antennas, likely for enhanced radio communication. There seem to be 2 versions of the thruster pack. One features a single thruster positioned above a larger horizontal thruster, while the other one has 2 low thrusters instead. The rear hardpoint also appears customizable. Some units are equipped with 2 beam saber holders, while others have the standard weapon hook. The Act Zaku was given advanced magnetically coated field motor joints, a significant upgrade over the original Zaku's fluid pulse joints. Field motors are a real thing. These manage to spin stuff, assuming Google's not lying to me. This is the picture I'm seeing, and it looks like a magnet spinning because of other magnets. I'm not entirely sure what fluid pulse is though. Maybe they meant hydraulic? But regardless of how they work, the new magnet-coated joints tremendously improves the mobility of the suit, which in turn makes it a very potent melee fighter, though it was not built specifically for that purpose. Magnetic coating basically works like a maglev train. So the joints, right? They are kind of always pushing away from each other. So this makes spinning or moving the joint very smooth and fast because the motors are aided and boosted by opposite magnetic forces pushing away from each other. Yeah, I think that's how it works. The Act Zaku's more powerful power plant enables the use of advanced beam weaponry, distinguishing it from the earlier models. Pezun developed a new beam rifle for the Act Zaku, which the Federation later refined into the BR-87A beam rifle. In addition to this, the Act Zaku comes equipped with 2 beam sabers for close combat. Alternatively though, pilots can choose the new large Heat Hawk model. The shield design initially took inspiration from the Galgug, but was later replaced with a High-Zac type shield. The suit is also compatible with standard Zeon armaments, of course, such as the Zaku machine gun, which was upgraded into the Kai version later on in the One-Year War, and both the Zaku and Dom models of bazookas. Additionally, a unique ballistic weapon, the Ballpot 4-barrel machine gun, was specifically developed for the suit. That gun may be intended to replace the 122 if the war went on for longer, but that's just my speculation. It's pretty good in GBO. Fires very fast, reloads very quickly. I love it. The Act Zaku is the only Pezun model that reached mass production, while all others remain either limited productions or prototypes. Its development benefited from the lessons learned through the United Maintenance Plan, which streamlined its production. However, like many next-generation Zeon suits, Zeon just did not have the time to be able to produce enough of them to affect the tide of the war. The Act Zaku units that were produced were specifically allocated to ACEs or special units. Each suit came equipped with a limiter that was fine-tuned to match the pilot's capabilities. The enhanced speed from the magnetic coating technology made the suit difficult for normal pilots to handle. So this limiter was essential to ensure the pilot's safety while still allowing them to harness the suit's advanced performance. One specific Act Zaku was given to Captain Mallet Sanguine, commander of the Granada Special Forces. He first deployed with the suit during a mission to escort reinforcements bound for Ku. The route they were taking had a Federation hunter killer unit operating in it. Mallet led his squad of 3 Rick Doms and actively hunted the hunters. Soon after, Mallet encountered Gundam Unit 5 and immediately engaged. He charged in, firing his beam rifle and catching the Gundam off guard. The Gundam attempted to escape, but the Act Zaku quickly closed in the distance, easily keeping pace. The Gundam fired its Gatling gun, but Mallet's Act Zaku dodged every shot with precision. As Mallet swung his Heat Hawk towards the Gundam, the attack was blocked, locking both suits in close combat. During the intense fight, another Gundam, Unit 4, fired its Mega Beam Launcher at the Zeon fleet, signaling mission failure for Mallet. Later on, Mallet was assigned an interception mission targeting a suspected Federation covert supply run near Von Braun. His squad discovered a convoy that appeared suspicious, and without hesitation, he ordered it to engage. Luckily for Mallet, he did not end up committing a war crime, as the ships were the Federation ships they were looking for. The convoy was carrying the 2 Gundams from their previous encounter. Unit 5 charged in to intercept, reigniting their battle. As before, the Act Zaku had the upper hand, with the moon's gravity working against the Gundam, making its movement sluggish due to its heavier weight. They fought fiercely, with each swing and shot narrowly missing their mark. Despite the intense duel, the Gundam managed to escape once again. The next sortie was a mirror of the first. Another Zeon reinforcement fleet was en route to Ku, but this time, Zeon planned to use it as bait to lure out the Federation's hunter-killer team. Mallet and his squad were assigned to lie in wait in a nearby debris field, ready to ambush the unsuspecting Federation forces as soon as they made their move. They sprung the trap, and once again the Act Zaku led the chase. Mallet was forced to break off when a Jim cannon provided cover fire for Unit 5, but he quickly resumed his pursuit. However, as the chase continued, Unit 4 fired his Mega Beam Launcher again at the fleet, successfully destroying it. This time, though, Mallet was caught in the blast. The war ended while Mallet was still recovering. Upon hearing the news, Mallet was enraged, ignoring all orders. He disabled the limiter on his Act Zaku and took an experimental drug that heightened his awareness. Fueled by anger and the effects of the drug, Mallet launched his suit, disregarding the ceasefire. His first target was a Gelgoog, which he destroyed with ease. Then, he charged at Unit 5, completely dominating the Gundam. Before, Mallet had already been a formidable opponent. Now, without limiters and under the influence of the drug, he was nearly unstoppable. With every powerful swing, the Gundam was forced further back until its shield, overwhelmed by the relentless assault, was cleaved in half.
But then,
he died! Just like that. Sure, Ryder. The guy who won every engagement up until this point with no signs of his abilities cracking. But then in one move, he died. Okay. After the war, the Earth Federation took over the development and production of the Act Zaku, integrating the suit into their forces. They upgraded the Act Zaku with a new panoramic monitor to keep it up to date with modern standards. But despite these enhancements, by the time of the Grips War, approximately 10 years later, the Act Zaku had become significantly outdated, struggling to keep pace with more advanced mobile suits. This is just my belief, but I think the Act was meant to replace both Zaku and Golf. Just how it handles melee combat makes me think that was going to happen if the war went on for longer. Maybe not. Maybe the Golf was going to be a separate model, but that's just how I see it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good at melee, and that's what the Golf is. Plus, it's blue. The MS-12 Gigan was, what I think, the planned replacement for the Zaku cannon to be Zeon's main artillery mobile suit. The suit is a completely new design as opposed to the other Pezun projects, which were based on something existing. At least that is what I assume, because it doesn't really look like anything existing. It vaguely looks like a guy or a GOG, but I highly doubt Pezun used those as a base design. There's an alternate design that's a bit more unique that gives it a cattle helmet look with small eye slits and a middle nasal guard. Possibly taking note from the field-built Zaku tank, Pezun decided not to give the Gigan legs, but instead a base platform of 3 big all-terrain wheels with 4 thrusters for jumping, I guess. There could be a number of reasons why they went down this route, but I think one of the main reasons is for, or could be for, cost and simplicity reasons. Platform wheels is probably a lot easier to build and cheaper to make compared to legs. Now you probably won't need to make a complex gyro system because the way the wheels are placed in a tricycle formation, triangle formation, it kind of balances itself out, so you won't need a complex gyro system. Probably a simple one. Probably don't even need to put a gyro system. The resources you will use to make these gyro systems could be given to other suits that would need that gyro system, I would say. It is not a fast suit at all, at least according to GBO2 from what I piloted it when I used it for the background footage. It's quite fun actually. It feels very stable because you're not like jumping, just kind of rolling around. Kind of like it. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't need to be fast, because it's an artillery weapon at the end of the day. All it really needs is a stable platform that it can shoot from and also hold the weight of the main cannon. Speaking of which, the suit's main armament is a recoilless 180mm cannon in the turret on its head with a coaxial machine gun. In the very bad event that this thing will be engaged at close range, it would have the quad-barrel 120mm machine gun for personal defense. Not entirely defenseless, but it's not an ideal situation to be in. There's also these 2 holes on the head, and those on literally any other suits tend to be Vulcan machine guns, so that's another possible defense weapon. Unlike the Zaku cannon, the Gigan requires 2 pilots, an actual pilot and a gunner, both sitting in a torso, similar to the Zamel. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Gigan was inspired by the Zamel. The overall design is pretty similar. One is bigger, yeah, but they both have a big gun on the head, have a machine gun on one arm, and a triangle-shaped lower half. A small number of these were built during the war, but they were mostly assigned to rear-line guard duties and colony defense. A couple would survive up until the Laplace crisis. Whether these were separate models or a further development of the suit, I'm not entirely sure. But the sleeves would operate space versions of the Gigan. All the wheels were removed, and in their place, 2 giant propellant boosters. And the right arm was replaced with Drazi Gatling cannon. Not gonna lie, dude, this thing kinda goofy looking. But what isn't? While looking like something that would call the Mariana Trench its home, the MS-13 Gasha was actually made for space use. I thought it was a water suit. Really did. I mean, it looks like a water suit. It looks like a frog. To my eyes, it does kind of look like a frog. Does it not look like a frog to you? Anyway, it was built on the MSM-07 Zegog and the MSM-08 Zogog, so that probably helps with the whole water suit assumption. The Gasha is envisioned as a support unit for Rick Doms in space operations, and going strictly with the weapons it carries, I think it can be assumed that it is meant for long-range support fire. The resemblance to the original chassis is pretty apparent, somewhat, but you have these 2 big shoulders, I guess, that stores 4 180mm missile tubes on each side. It doesn't look like it carries more than a single shot for each tube, so it probably would operate nearby like a supply ship or a crew. So that's pretty limiting in terms of fight longevity, I guess. For personal defense or close range engagements, a pilot would have access to the hammer gun, which the suit is somewhat able to hold with hands like these. No, seriously. Wow. Look at the grip and look at the hands. How is this possible? But anyway, the gun is less of a gun and more of a chain mace that deploys very violently. It shoots out very fast, and I don't doubt the damage it would do if this hit something, but it's connected to a chain, so it's very limited in terms of range. If an enemy gets past your chain or cuts it, then you are only able to defend yourself with your iron nail claws. Though it was designed to be a spacesuit, it can still operate under gravity. A number of these suits were seen moving with a Dot Bay battleship on Earth. Now this is pure speculation, but I think it might be able to function as some kind of mobile scanner, maybe? Like AWACS. It's got these 2 rods sticking out the back, and these things are apparently ground sensors. I'm not entirely sure if they function in space because, it's a spacesuit. So I'm not entirely sure if these sensors work, but, on the ground, they might be able to detect movement from God knows how far. Doesn't really state anywhere about the range or how it works, or at least from what I can find. But let's assume it's got a big range, right? It could use that information to alert friendlies of incoming hostiles of their position, or they could use the information and maybe use it as some kind of targeting solution for their missiles. This thing is piloted by 2 people, so maybe one is a sensor officer. I don't really see any reason why you would need 2 people for a suit like this. But yeah, if it can function as some kind of like long-range sensor, I think that will increase the effectiveness of this thing. You know, it will be some kind of like long-range mobile missile launching scout suit. But again, I don't know if these like this hypothetical ground sensor thingies, you know, this hypothetical scouting ability work in space. Probably does not. Maybe it does. I don't know. Doesn't say anyway. But personally, I think the Gasha might be the worst of the bunch, I guess, because it seems kind of half-baked. It's very limited in capabilities, but maybe that's the entire point. Maybe it's just supposed to be a support suit that is designed for one specific purpose, you know, that is to stay a distance away from the front lines and just keep launching missiles. If it's engaged in close-range fighting, then you already know you lost the battle. Maybe the defense weapons, it has just enough for it to run away or something. You shoot the chain mace, hit someone, that guy gets stunned or whatever, and then you run away. Maybe. I don't know. The Galbaldy Alpha, as far as we know, is the last Pezun-developed suit for the end of the war. The Galbaldy was originally supposed to be the successor to the Gigan, which wasn't even accepted in service yet, but alright. But that didn't happen, because Zeon chose the Galguk instead. Instead of scrapping the project, Pezun instead moved to incorporate Galguk design into the Galbaldy. I guess this means the Galbaldy looked very different originally. Maybe it would have been more in line with the Gigan look. You can still see some of the Gigan legacy in the main torso. About 90% the same as the Gigan. The arms too, possibly, but the legs are definitely Galguk based. The head looks like a combination of both. It's got that chicken beak thing, the fin plume thing on top there, but the head itself is like a tall coat like the Gigan. On the wrist, there looks to be some kind of like gun, but there isn't any information regarding, nor has it ever been depicted to be shooting, so it could be something else. There were originally two versions of the suit, the A-type and the B-type. The A-type was meant to be the ground version, something like the Zaku 2J ground type. The B-type was supposed to be the space version of the suit, something like the Breakdown. But during development, Pezun chose to instead stop the A-type development and put everything to the B-type. Even though it was meant for space use, the B-type could still be used under gravity. So instead of splitting resources into two separate units, they just pile everything so they can just make one multi-purpose one. The Galbaldy Alpha takes the best weapons from both Galguk and the Gigan as a standard loadout. Its beam rifle is taken straight from the Galguk along with its shield design, and the Gigan's beam saber is used as its melee weapon. I feel like it's more of a rapier than a saber, to be completely honest, since it's more optimized for stabbing attacks rather than slashing, but whatever. There is one instance where the Galguk shield was swapped out for a spiked knuckle shield, but that was a battlefield scavenge. The Galbaldy Alpha came in too late to affect the outcome of the war. A few were built and involved in the final battle of Baku, the defense of Pezun itself. One very notable involvement was during the Valkyrie uprising at the capital, Zum City, on the very last day of the year. Phileas Stream, the test pilot for the project, was a young boy assigned to Giran's personal elite guard unit. During the uprising, Phileas faced a Gulf Custom piloted by a veteran pilot, Lance Garfield. The pair engaged in a very intense melee fight that lasted at least 30 minutes. Note, a standard fight between two suits will only average around 3 minutes. Even though he's missing his right arm, Lance was able to hold his own and even dictate the pace of the fight. At one point, Lance managed to lock the Galbaldy's arm and used the opportunity to destroy its shield with the heat rod. The pair broke off and stared each other down. Round 1 goes to the Gulf. At some point, Phileas managed to break contact with the Gulf. As both were recovering and looking for each other, Phileas managed to find a knuckle shield to replace his broken one. He also turned off the limit of his sword, which massively increased the lethality of the weapon. The second round began and Phileas managed to block a swing by Lance. He swats off the arm and goes in with multiple fast stabs. Lance managed to dodge everything up until a certain point when an opening was spotted by Phileas. The Galbaldy Alpha charges in for a swing. At the overloaded state it is in, it wouldn't matter if the sword was designed for thrusting. It will cut through. It looked to be over for Lance when Phileas misstepped. His swing fell short for a killing blow, only slicing off the Gulf's right arm, the same arm Lance himself is missing. The second round goes to the Galbaldy. A brief break happened, both using the moment to take a breather and check their condition. Galbaldy's sword was beginning to short out, so the next round needed to be the last. The Gulf starts getting up, readying itself for a charge. Phileas sees this and decides to drop his shield and ready himself for one final stab. Round 3 was about to begin. Lance charges in, putting all the power the Gulf has into his thrusters. Phileas stands his ground and takes guard, aiming his sword at the Gulf's center torso, intending to use the Gulf's own momentum against it. The Golf crashes into the Galbaldy, causing a bright light that obscures the result of the clash. The momentum of the charge sends both suits flying backwards to the building. It is here where we see the result of the fight. The Golf managed to land a stab into the Galbaldy's right chest, but Phelius's aim was true, leaving a giant hole in the middle of the Golf. Round 3, and the winner of the fight goes to the Galbaldy, though Phelius feels like Lance let him win, forever robbing him a proper, equal victory. Following the war and the capture of Pezun, the Earth Federation would further development of the Galbaldy into Galbaldy Beta, which became one of their mainstay units. Other surviving units would escape to Axis, where they would continue their service up until at least the Crips War. Axis will also continue development onto the Galbaldy, which culminated into the Galbaldy Alpha High Mobility type. The suit essentially swaps out the legs for the ones from the Galgut High Mobility. It carries the Jaeger's beam machine gun and the Gigan's beam saber and missile shield. One specific model was involved in the fight over Granada of the Titans in 0084. The High Mobility and a normal Galbaldy were escorting a custom Dwadge to an Anaheim facility in Granada when they were intercepted by the Titans. Both Galbaldy quickly dispatched 2 Jim Quells, but a Jim Sniper managed to damage the normal Galbaldy. The High Mobility engaged with Pale Rider unit, where it managed to cut off both of the Pale Rider's arms. These suits were undeniably advanced for their time. Gundam Unit 5 struggled significantly against the Act Zaku. Imagine if Zeon had managed to fully mass-produce the Act Zaku and make it the mainstay mobile suit of their army. Imagine the Pezun Dwadge charging through the front lines at full speed, the Gigan providing a devastating artillery support. The Galbaldy could have dominated space combat, the Gasha offering vital long-range support. The potential for these advanced suits to turn the tide of the war was immense, but unfortunately for Zeon, these innovations came too late to have a meaningful impact on the outcome. After the war's end, Pezun was inherited by the Earth Federation. They confiscated Pezun's research and continued development of some of the models. The Act Zaku was slightly modernized, had its production continued, and entered service for the Earth Federation. The Galbaldy Alpha was further developed into the Galbaldy Beta, which also entered service into the EF and was given to the majority of regular units. The remaining 3, however, seem to be completely abandoned. This whole line of suits were originally set to appear in the original Gundam series, but that was scrapped when the series got shortened from 50-something episodes to the 43 that we got. Shaw was supposed to pilot Galbaldy, I think, towards the latter half of the series. The other suits would have been seen during the defense of Solomon at Abaku. You can see here in this magazine that the Dwadge and the Gasha were painted white. This might be like an early version of the Capital Defense Battalion from the plot to assess the Gigan, actually. Those guys have their suits painted white too. I think there's also some white on this Act Zaku. Some white stripes on this thing. Could be lightning, but nah, I think those are definitely white stripes, so they could be in the same battalion as well. So anyway, when the anime got shortened, they decided to use these suits for a side story manga called MSX. Or at least that's the name that we get, where we know of.
But then,
Sunrise announced Zeta Gundam, and the whole project kind of got shafted because they didn't know if they could tie it into the timeline smoothly. They 100% could, but maybe the whole 10 years after thing wasn't established yet when they cancelled the MSX. And so the suits were kind of left in a state of limbo. They were created, publicized, and they really wanted to incorporate them into the wider series, but they just could not find, for one reason or another, couldn't find a way to do it. But eventually, some were reused for Zeta. The Act Zaku, along the Galbaldy, which got turned to the Beta model, was reused. The Pezun Dwadge got turned to the normal Dwadge, and maybe even inspired a Dryson? But the remaining weren't fully canon until way later when the Pezun Project was fully canonized in future media, like games and especially manga. Now, I'm not entirely sure if there's like a real-life equivalent of the Pezun Project in terms of like World War II Germany stuff. I don't think the E-Series project fits the bill. That one is more in line with the United Maintenance Plan, because the E-Series, if you don't know, was Germany's attempt to streamline their entire production line because like their entire army, especially the tanks, they were all created by different manufacturers, so each have their own supply chain, which not really effective, not really a good idea to do things, especially when you're in the middle of a high intense war. Yes. But yeah, that is the exact same thing as the United Maintenance Plan. The United Maintenance Plan is, it's literally that. Zeon just be like, okay, we got too many suits and too many parts, whatever. Make them interchangeable, make them common. Make them homogeneous. Make them the same. Unite their maintenance plan. Get it? But if you know what the peasant suit, if there is one, that doesn't have to be based on something. It could be a complete original thing. But if you know if it's based on something, or it like matches the what do you call that, the description or something, I guess, and you know it, please do share. I will let you know. But yeah, that was the Pezun Project. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed it and would like to see more, please do leave a like and subscribe. That would help me a lot. Appreciate it. I got Discord. Want to join that and pump some life into the damn server? I don't know why I made it. And also Twitch, but I do multi-stream. If you got a suggestion of what you would like to see next, please do leave one below. But until next time, take care. And I'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.